Hello, that's me again. Today is the July 5th, and boy, do we have things to discuss. And I want to forestall anybody who continues to protest. There is some very vocal minority of people that, oh no, we know that, don't, expose this for us. Well, I will continue to expose the whole collapse of the, not only just meritocracy, but the competences across the board in the Western world, and especially when it comes down to military and intelligence issues. And I will start with my good friend Larry when he discusses how CIA chief Burns descends into the delusion. And he explains that yesterday that Radio Sputnik called Larry and asked him about the Mr. Burns, who was spreading absolute delirium as the, how to put it politely, I don't even know how to judge it. It's both being sore loser, it's both trying to put the, lipstick on the pig, but it's also the kind of tacit admission of the fact that basically the combined West is defeated militarily. But here it is. And Larry points out that I have posted the full video of Burns' remarks below. If you held out hope that Burns was the lone adult in the Biden administration, forget it. Burns, while well-spoken, is a shallow, mendacious twit. And I agree with him because basically the whole American and Western elites have been in the modus operandi, so to speak, of the negative selection for many decades now, and not the best but the worst have been promoted upward, as you might expect. And when you even look at those kind of nice looking gentlemen, you would see like, oh my god, they probably are pleasant people in life, some of them anyway, and you can have a really nice discussion with them on the issues of, let's say, nice scotch, or the weather somewhere, or the I don't know, some resorts maybe, or super yachts. But when it comes down to their professional abilities to perform their duties as be them intelligence officers or be them diplomats, let alone military, you suddenly begin to recognize, my gosh, we're looking into the abyss of complete incompetence and loss of any kind of ethics and morality. And we will start, after what Larry introduced to, we will start and kind of, I will try to demonstrate to you where it all comes down to, or what it comes down to. And I will start with this funny looking article yesterday. I still depend on the, obviously, media to supply the ammunition for what I do. And here it is. And it was 2 days ago, actually. NATO readies military plans to defend against bruised but unbowed Russia. This is Associated Press. I don't know who this Lorny cook, who cooked this garbage, but still. Look at this. This is what they basically concluded in NATO, and here it is. Russia's armed forces are bruised, but by no means beaten in the war in Ukraine, a top NATO military officer said Monday, as he laid out the biggest revamp to the organization's military plans since the Cold War, should Moscow dare to widen the conflict. Well, we need to immediately state here that Moscow will not widen the conflict, only NATO can do that. But if NATO will widen the conflict, I want to state immediately that all those plans are absolutely worthless. First, because they are done for purely PR purposes, and secondly, because NATO has no resources to do what they describe they want to do. And what do they want to do? Here's what they want to do. This is actually hilarious. If you read this, you can see yourself that this officer says that, oh yeah, Russia, they might not be 11 feet tall, but they're certainly not 2 feet tall. Then shouldn't he have introduced at least some assessments on his part? How many feet Russians are tall? Like, I don't know, 3.5 or 4.25. But so whatever, it's a really wide range between 2 feet tall and 11 feet tall, and something in between could be anything between menacing to still risible. And the chair of the NATO Military Committee, Admiral Rob Bauer, told reporters, so we should never underestimate the Russians terms of their ability to bounce back. First, we have to start with simple thing. Even today, NATO has no clue what, whenever it comes down to Russia and assessing Russia's military industrial capability. They never had it. They have been completely living in the alternative universe of a complete BS and so-called intelligence supplied by those people who provided them with what they wanted to hear. And this is about how great they are. And when you listen to this, it's so pathetic that I cannot even comment on this. This is ridiculous. And so what he says that, look at this. This is what he wants to deter Russia with. Around 40,000 troops are on standby from Estonia in the north down to Romania on the Black Sea. About 100 aircraft take to the skies in that territory each day. And a total of 27 warships are operating in the Baltic and Mediterranean seas. Those numbers are set to rise. And under this new plan, NATO aims to have up to 300,000 troops ready to move to its eastern flank within 30 days. First, obviously, as we continue to discuss this reasonable planning, so to speak, you can see yourself, and here he continues to spread absolute baloney. It's not even lie. It's so outrageous that I, as already stated, I gave up on any sense of honor, any sense of professional integrity on those people. And this Netherlands admiral, he is full of crap, as most of them are. And he says, of Russia ground forces, around 94% is now engaged in the war in Ukraine, Bauer said. No, it's not 94% engaged, and it's not even 30% engaged. But hey, whatever floats the boat, and that's what he concludes with. What we see in general is that Russians are careful around NATO. They are not seeking a conflict with NATO. Yes, actually he is correct. Russia is not seeking a conflict with NATO because Russia is already in conflict with NATO, and because NATO are a bunch of cowards who have no resources, they hide behind their best proxy ever, or whatever left of it now, which is Ukraine. So this admiral, I mean, good God, I mean, the guy is absolutely a moron. And then what he says, I think that's a sign that they are very, very busy, he said. In the land domain, I don't think they have a lot of forces available to do anything to anyone else. No, he is lying again, because Russia has plenty of forces to do quite a lot to anybody else. But still, this is the planning. This is the really pathetic attempts on present NATO as any kind of military force, and especially its European part, which is pathetic. And we can go now and kind of see who this admiral is. Here's the Admiral Rob Bauer, as you can see yourself, nice trim, you know, nice looking dude, you know, clean, well shaven and so thing. But that's about it. He commanded some kind of the Zeven Provincien class air defense and command frigate, and then of course he graduated 3-year college of naval commander. So, and first he also completed the advanced strategic and general studies program in 1998, and I can tell you immediately that those advanced strategic and general studies programs in the West are basically garbage. Most of it are trash. And to explain to you why it is trash, we can go to Mr. Radakin, Sir Radakin, Admiral Radakin, the guy who has zero engineering, military engineering background. He is actually a lawyer, but he also graduated from some kind of military strategic studies baloney in some kind of King's College, and he stated that Russia lost half of its forces in the fight in Ukraine. So, well, Russian Minister of Defense had to come up today with this commentary that's saying that the garbage which produced actually by Financial Times, what do you expect, and the assessments of the British Admiral Radakin of the losses of Russian armor, together with also allegedly the loss of Russian armed forces, half of their combat effectiveness, are absolutely stunning in their, you know, universe scale of the lying. And Russian defense minister, of course, then mocks completely the guy, and they can complete that, which is really wonderfully summarize basically what modern military command of NATO is. Well, here it is. The most important, the British defense staff long ago requalified itself from the organ of the strategic analysis and planning into the freelance branch of the BBC. With such analytical capabilities as Admiral Radakin's, the defense of the United Kingdom wouldn't have a single foot, let alone 7 feet, under its keel. I totally agree. Those people are utterly unqualified to do anything of any kind of military planning, and whenever they go out spewing this garbage about whatever real war, of which they have no experience whatsoever, and they don't have academic background for it. They don't teach that in their military colleges. Not to speak about the fact that, for example, Radakin wouldn't be allowed to command this base Minesweeper in Russia, because you still have to have that serious 5-year, 6 days a week military engineering, naval engineering background, let alone if you have to command some kind of the serious frigate, because you do not understand the technology and engineering behind the weapon systems and how ships navigate, how they interact. But here we are. The guy commanded some kind of Norfolk, I believe, HMS Norfolk, and he comes out and, spews the same garbage as basically most of the lowlifes in the British media spew. So, and when you look at this, and you begin to ask yourself a question, have they been always like that? Well, I can tell you that they have been. In the last 20 years, you can see yourself. It is complete. I mean, it is complete circus. I will get you back to my book 4 years ago, which is, of course, Real Revolution in Military Affairs. And let me quote from this book, which actually stunned me when I was writing this, when I was researching the topic. And here it is. This is 4 years, well, actually more than 4 years ago. The fact that the Western political class is slow in grasping the new military reality due to both hubris and the lack of a proper military backgrounds was demonstrated in an almost comical way in March 2019 during NATO wargaming, which sought to address a possible escalation between Russia and Ukraine. The participants of these games, led by former NATO Secretary General Lord Robertson, and including students of a master's program in international conflict and cooperation, did not know the basic geography of the territory and were basing their wargaming on delusional premises such as Ukraine joining NATO. It was something to behold. That is, until one was presented with the war planning, quote unquote, which among such pearls of strategic thinking, including an utterly false assessment of Russia's capabilities, and produced dramatic manifestations of the new NATO elite's utter military incompetence, which it was concluded that, read this attentively, NATO action in Ukraine would be complicated by a law breach that Russia has opened connecting Crimea to the Russian mainland. This makes it difficult for the larger ships to move between Ukraine's Black Sea port and Mediterranean. When you begin to think just what you just read, and this is the quote from their war plans, and it was presented in news, you're just absolutely dumbfounded and you're stupefied by the fact, what do they even mean? Let me show you what did they meant. Here it is. This is the map of the Black Sea. As you can see yourself, and I already spoke about it, that some idiot, Mr. Blank, who also taught in, by the way, U.S. Naval War College and U.S. Army College, War College, that they can send ships to the Azov Sea, whose average depth is about 5 meters, but hey, what do I know? As you can see yourself, this is the bridge. In red with the arrow, this is the bridge between basically Crimea and the mainland. And as you can see yourself, Black Sea is the theater of operations. Can anybody explain to me how is the land bridge to mainland between Crimea and mainland and Krasnodar Krai somehow serves as an impediment for the operations of alleged operations, granted that Turkey grants them permission in accordance to Montreal Treaty to pass through the Turkish Straits into the Black Sea. as you can see yourself, Black Sea is literally open for navigation and any kind of operations. But how the hell this bridge can actually impede those actions? This is the mystery. But this is the level of absolute trash and garbage those idiots, including Lord Robertson, are teaching those students or NATO elites, including those people, the students of Masters of Arts of what? And that's the whole point. We're literally talking about absolute dumbing down of military education curriculum, especially in Great Britain, where you have the lawyer who completed some kind of the whatever military science and strategic studies, whatever, couple years or year master's degree, and basically training himself to what? Run the advanced frigate? I don't know. You know what? So there should be then no surprise that those guys actually, they thought that they, by sending all those advanced, weapons, as they think they are advanced, which they are not, to Ukraine, they will somehow, attain victory over bloody Russians. Now when they face this, and these are the latest things from July alone, and as you can see yourself, this is the Russian Ministry of Defense reports, and this is a daily. Each day, a battalion, full battalion, sometimes more than battalion of the Ukrainian and NATO forces is wiped out from the battle order of the what's left of the Ukrainian armed forces. And the last, in June, it was more than 22,000 KIAs. Here, as you can see yourself, up to this day, it's 3,320, and you can see yourself the number of the other hardware and equipment which have been annihilated by Russian forces. And you can begin to actually understand a little bit of the scale of the catastrophe which actually befell those guys, and in NATO, and then suddenly they have to come up, even this sewer. Again, you have to understand, this is pretty much every single mainstream media in the West is a sewer. It's complete cesspool. And here it is. But even this, this is the guy with this separate story, Michael Peck. I mean, the guy has no clue about anything he writes. But even he declared himself a contrarian at some point of time, having a degree in something like political science or journalism. But even he admits, and he admits it on July 3rd, that Russia's electronic warriors are intercepting Ukrainian troops' communications and jamming their GPS-guided bombs. Experts say, and electronic warfare is a pervasive, if less visible, of the fighting between Russia and Ukraine. No, it's not between Russia and Ukraine. It is between Russia and NATO, and we have to stop pretending that Ukraine absolutely means something in this respect. Ukraine is merely a supplier of the cannon fodder. Period. Ukraine has no industrial capability to produce anything anymore. It is completely dependent on the West supplying it with the hardware and those so-called advisors who have absolutely zero clue about real modern warfare, and then find themselves learning from actually those Ukrainians who survived. And when you look at this, this is like, guys, you know what? I mean, it's just massive across the board. It's profound. It goes deep. Incompetence and living in the alternative universe. And it goes so far that they begin to lose complete touch with reality to such degree that they are stupefied when you have people like that. Well, Mr. Borrell, the guy who declared Europe to be a garden and the rest of the world to be a jungle, and yesterday China cancels planned trip by Europe's top diplomat. Remarkably, what is most stunning about all that, China didn't even provide any kind of explanation why they canceled it. They simply abruptly, flat, canceled it without any explanation, and they stated that we might consider next date sometime in the future. This is humiliation. This is the slap in the face. And when you look at the Western military people also, of course they're humiliated. Those guys look like the deer stuck in the headlights of the oncoming car. And when you look at this, as I already stated, I begin to doubt that you can really communicate with any modern NATO, especially European general or admiral, and explain to them what war is, be them naval, air, or ground forces war, because they absolutely do not understand that. That is why they provide all those PR statements. But in reality, as I already stated, Sir Radakin wouldn't be allowed, he has no naval engineering background, he wouldn't be allowed to command small minesweeper, let alone the frigate, let alone cruiser, let alone nuclear submarine in Russia. Yet here we are. We have this guy who sits in the, top position in the staff of the whatever toy, risible armed forces of UK, British armed forces, which are really joke. They are literally joke. And he spews BS for the consumption of the, otherwise the cesspool of the British media, and you begin to cringe, basically. Do those people have honor? Honor not towards us, mere mortals. Do they even respect themselves? They parade themselves as clowns, which they are. I'm not even sure if this Sir Radakin knows what real navigation is. Believe me, I know. I am navigator by definition and by profession. I'm engineer in this field, actually. But here it is. Here we are. What can I say? This is absolutely stunning. And that brings us to the also other guys. They now suffering from Mr. Haas. Mr. Haas, who was the big honcho for 20 years in the Council of the Foreign Affairs of the United States. This is the think tank of the bunch of the good old boys who never worked a day in normal work, who do not know how to run 7-Eleven, but they call themselves the academicians and the think tank which promotes the globalist. Well, it always promoted globalist and borderline neocon policies. And Richard Haas, who passes in the United States for diplomat, is being substituted now with another guy. Just look him up. He actually ran Disney Corporation into the ground. He is some Wall Street lawyer. So what do you expect? And Richard Haas, suddenly when he left the Post, wrote the article in the New York Times about the fact that he found, or the book, or whatever that he wrote, that actually the real source of the instability in the world is the United States. He said, well, we found that we are the enemy. Well, I don't know how this epiphany kind of descended on the guy, but you know what? It means absolutely nothing. As I already stated, the whole combined West elites have been exposed as people who have no clue. And by the way, this publication from the the Council for the Foreign Relations, which is of course Foreign Affairs, look what they write. And again, I do not even look at those people anymore, their biographies, Michael Brenner's, whoever he is. But look at this. He writes about how America broke its war machine, privatization and the hollowing out of the defense industry. Yeah, I agree. It was privatization and the hollowing out of the U.S. industry, or U.S. defense industry. But here he writes, these unlimited commitments to furnishing Ukraine with weapons to counter Russian aggressions have invoked parallels to World War II. Weeks after the fighting began, the New York Times columnist Paul Krugman argued that the United States and its allies are serving as the arsenal of democracy, giving the defenders of freedom the material means to keep. So we need to immediately point out that Paul Krugman is an idiot. He has a Nobel Prize in idiocy, economic idiocy. No, literally, the guy is imbecile. The fact that he, you can look up a dramatic quote from Mencken about the fact that he is the moron with PhD, and obviously they slapped on him the useless economics prize. But Paul Krugman doesn't understand the profound difference. And fact is that there is nothing in common between the arsenal, self-proclaimed arsenal of democracy, and obviously in situation of the World War II with what's happening now in Ukraine. And Mr. Brands continues while pointing out that, yeah, there kind of have been those invocation of the parallels. But that's what he writes. Look at this. By this lofty rhetoric does not match the reality on the ground. Shortages in production, inadequate labor pools, and interruptions in supply chains have hamstrung the United States' ability to deliver weapons to Ukraine and enhance the country's defense capabilities more broadly. Let me put it this way. Without cutting through BS immediately, United States has nothing which can it provide which will enhance Ukraine's defense, so to speak. Not in terms of quantity only, but in terms of quality, because United States lost the arms race. I am on the record. And here it is. He now then laments the way we were. Today, defense industry bears no resemblance to the US system of military production during World War II. Back then, the industry was predominantly a government-run business. Yes, it was. Absolutely. Nobody argues with that. But people have to remember, in terms of Lend-Lease, for example, which some people whom I respect still continue to believe that it was the free give out, so to speak, present for Soviet Union. Soviet Union received 3 times less Lend-Lease supplies than, for example, United Kingdom, Great Britain. And obviously, Soviet Union and Russia paid every single penny for it. But when you look at those people in their this Council for Foreign Relations and those people who write this trash basically into their foreign affairs magazine, thinking that they produce something of value. It's not. It's all garbage, basically. But look at this. They should have gone back 5 years and looked up this unclassified report, at that time actually initiated by Mr. Trump and his administration. And it's called Assessing and Strengthening the Manufacturing and Defense Industrial Base and Supply Chain Resiliency of the United States. Report to the President Donald Trump, September 2018. And when you open this report, which is 5 years old, what you see there is description of a complete technological and cadre catastrophe which befell on the United States military-industrial complex. And this is not just the fact that the United States makes weapons for sale. They are really not that good weapons. It is the fact that actually United States is falling back, so far in production of the all necessary machinery for production of the advanced weapons that, for example, if you go to that report of which I spoke on a number of occasions, you will see yourself that in terms of even the machine tools, United States lags behind Italy and Austria, for crying out loud. But can you imagine explaining to Mr. Krugman what CNC is, computer numerical control, how it operates, what kind of tooling it requires, and what it all means from G-code to NC-plot to whatever, all kinds of the CAD systems which allow you to produce the complex details and parts. He will know the difference. He is the guy who lives in his alternative universe. And again, American elites, most of them, 99%, I don't know, 95 maybe, they don't know the history, real history of the United States, and they don't know history of the warfare of the 20th century. They have no clue about it. They do not teach it in the American universities because most of those professors who teach it, they are unqualified. They do not understand how the military and warfare influenced the formation of the civilization and how it served as the impetus for the basically keeping nations in shape. And when you begin to go there, guys, I write books on that matter. I write this in my blog constantly. And when all this together is put, so to speak, together as a single kind of reality, you see yourself why, now people say there is a NATO summit in Vilnius on the 11th, I think. And yesterday when I spoke with my friends Alex Christoforou and Alexander Mercuris of Duran, we spoke about it. And when you look at this, the system of the civilian control in the neoliberal framework of the military doesn't work. It never worked, really. And when you look at those major powers like the United States, military powers, you begin to see yourself that it's not really that huge of a military power. It created a lot of mythology about it, but as I already stated, it's not capable to fight real modern war of scale. Even SMO, which is Special Military Operation, which is not full-blown war, already sent the shockwaves through the NATO establishment because none of them are qualified to do anything about it. They have no background, and even that information they get from the battlefields in Ukraine, they get it from the Ukraine propaganda. And as Alexander Mercury said yesterday, he knows the political elite of UK, for example. They don't read those briefings, even considering the fact that those briefings are also trash when you have like Radakin like this. The only thing they do, those politicians, because they are uneducated, many of them are extremely uncultured, many of them downright bizarre and imbeciles like Liz Truss, for example, or Annalena Baerbock. They don't read those briefings. They read newspapers, and newspapers are run and supplied in the combined West by shysters. Most Western journalists are shysters and lowlifes. They actually, prostitutes stay higher on the social scale than they are. And here it is, and that's what we have now. Now they talk about the possibility of Ukrainian provocation against the Zaporozhian nuclear power plant. Is it possible? Certainly possible. But again, those people do not understand. Even if they produce some kind of the false flag, which it is false flag, it's CIA and MI6 will be involved in this. NATO has no forces. It has no resources to do anything about anything. And really, how you gonna fight against the army right now, which writes the new book on the warfare, and it has about 500,000 people in reserve staying behind the lines, being ready, being trained and armed to the hilt with the best weapon systems in the world. Try that. And of course Russia can immediately, if need be, mobilize another 2.5 million people. So that speaks volumes, doesn't it? And that is why China slaps Borrell into face and tells him in their diplomatic language to go screw himself, because China is not going to be talking to Brussels. They're not interested. So here it is. This is what I wanted to tell you. And guys, as always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please subscribe. Please support me on the Patreon or buy me a coffee too. That allows me to continue doing what I'm doing. And so what can I say? Have the nice rest of the week, guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.